Wholesome Roots. You say hi?
Hi.
Good job. So, you guys have probably been wondering where we've been for the last 5 days. There's a lot to tell, and I haven't been able to tell it until yesterday when I wrote it all down. So I wrote a Steam It post about everything that's happened since Friday. So Friday was the last update that you guys had, was Friday morning, and how we were hoping Fancy 2 was going to be going into labor, and we had more sick goats, and how Coco was getting better. So that was, I think, where we left off. Well, Fancy 2 still hasn't had her babies. I'm thinking that she may have not had the breeding take when I witnessed it, and that she could have cycled again a week later, or as a short cycle because she was with the buck, or 3 weeks later. So Fancy could have cycled 3 weeks later, and that could be when she was bred. So that means we have another 2 weeks or so to go. So that's a possibility that I'm looking at now. So that brings you up to date on Fancy. The rest of what I have to bring you up to date on is extremely hard for me to tell you guys, and extremely hard for me to even get the words out for even my closest family and friends. There was less than 5 people, I think, that even knew about it until yesterday when I created the Steam It post. So I'm actually just going to read what I wrote, because I think that that's the best way for me to do this. So I hope you guys don't mind. Okay. So this is from 5 days ago, starting on Friday. I was pretty upset that I found 2 more goats had become sick with diarrhea that has been plaguing my herd.
Yeah.
But I was feeling like I could control it now.
Yeah.
After all, Coco had been very sick, but after 3 days of antibiotics was 90% better. She was eating hay and trying to push past me out the barn to escape. So now I knew I had to begin antibiotics immediately and everything would be okay, right? Or so I thought. So I proceeded with everything I had been doing to get the others well, and crossed my fingers it would work. One of the goats that became sick was Coco's cousin Rocky. She had bad diarrhea, but was alert, active, and still eating hay. The other one was Sugar, the twin to Spice, who we lost at the beginning of July to the same symptoms. But that was before we knew how serious it was. Sugar had the diarrhea and was lethargic and not eating. I was scared. So I continued checking on my 3 sick goats every hour throughout the day, giving fluids and herbs and lots of motherly love and scratches. They all appeared to be exactly the same every hour I checked. That is, until my 5 o'clock check. Something was very surprisingly different in a very bad way. I looked over the top of the stall, and Coco, the goat that was 90% better, was laying in the corner and would not respond to my voice calling her name. My heart sunk and twisted with fear. I went in and approached her, coaxing her gently with my words. I got to her and placed my hand on her shoulder, and she began seizing. I was so shocked and distraught and knew this was it. This was the end. How could this be happening? She was perfectly fine an hour before. I didn't know what to do. I called my mentor and described what was happening. The seizure stopped and Coco was just wide-eyed and bellowing. I couldn't understand what was happening. This made no sense. My mentor advised me to get off the phone and video what was happening, and maybe it would be a clue. I was shaking as I watched her seize over and over, and there was nothing I could do to help her. I recorded the horrible last 2 minutes of her very ugly death, And then I laid my hands on her and asked her for forgiveness and told her how very sorry I was that I couldn't save her. She was gone while I spoke to her and sobbed over her now lifeless body. I just sat there petting her and telling her how much I loved her and how I wish I could have saved her. There was really nothing I could do. I got up and went outside and called the pathologist who was working on our case to determine the cause of death from the last goat that died. I called her back again for the millionth time this week. I was going to get answers somehow. She said the cultures were still young in the culturing process, but it didn't appear that any one bacteria was standing out amongst the others, so it wasn't looking like bacteria had caused this. She had me call the large animal vet at Auburn, and I explained everything to her, and we talked for an hour investigating every possible cause and scenario. We decided the next action to take would be to bring them one of our sick goats, either tonight or in the morning, to try to discover what was happening. So Ryan came home and we sat and talked about what we would do. We had a goat to bury, other goats that needed dinner and to go in for the night, chickens that needed to be fed and watered, dinner to be cooked and eaten, and 2 sick little kids. We decided that we would bring Sugar in first thing in the morning before the bed of the truck got hot. It was the best plan to not stress out her or us too unnecessarily. So Ryan went out to do all the animal chores and the difficult task of burying another of his favorite goats. Not even 5 minutes later, I see Ryan run past the window coming back to the house. The front door flew open and he ran in with the most horrible look on his face. That look. The one no one ever wants to see. The look that tells you without a doubt that something horrible has happened. I could not believe anything he was about to tell me. I was paralyzed with no emotion at all. I screamed at him, don't you dare say a word. I pushed him into our bedroom, away from our 2 sick boys watching cartoons in the living room, and closed the door behind us. I stood there in shock and disbelief as his face trembled with emotion, afraid to say it himself. I just had one word. Who? I could see by the look in his eyes he didn't want to answer, as he replied,
Oh.
Sugar.
Oh. Huh?
Needless to say, there was a lot of emotions happening at this point. I just shook my head. I couldn't believe it. I accused him of lying, that it wasn't true, that it couldn't possibly be true. There was no way she could be gone. She had just started having diarrhea a few hours before. Nothing kills that fast. Nothing. It just couldn't be true. It couldn't be possible that my sweet Sugar was gone now too. I can't tell you how many times I heard or said, well, at least we have Sugar still, when we lost our twin sister a month before. This all cannot be happening. Maybe I'm stuck in a really, really long nightmare and just can't wake up. I couldn't even cry. After trying to reason through this even being possible or true, there was a part of me that raised up to the surface. The fighter, the survivor, pulled up out of the dark, sticky tar that had taken over and pulled my brain up out of it and into reality. I knew we had to go now. We had to take Sugar for a necropsy and Rocky to be treated before she was dead too. I called the vet back and it was a different vet on call, but luckily it was the husband of the vet I already talked to, so he had a little insight into our situation. He was great. He asked all the right questions and reassured us that they would get this figured out. I told Ryan to go back down to the barn and get them both loaded up into the truck. I got the boys ready and rinsed off the tears and we left. After a quick run through the drive-thru for dinner and an hour-and-a-half drive to get there, we finally arrived at one of the best vet schools in the country. I felt confident that these vets would help us get to the answers we so desperately needed to save our herd from this invisible and deadly threat. The next several hours were spent investigating every single possible cause and every single scenario. We looked at every angle with open minds. I only got upset once and called the vet ignorant when he insulted my natural ways before he realized that we were, in fact, as close to parasite-free as goats can be. He then changed his tune about herbal dewormers and began praising us for having our parasites under control better than 90% of the goat and sheep farms in the southeast, including themselves. You see, 90% of the cases that they see are situations caused by parasites, and this was clearly not what they were finding with our goats. This was definitely a mystery to them as well. Come on, guys! Come on! He said Sugar was the specimen of perfect body condition and sent her off to have a full necropsy performed. He examined Rocky and drew blood, etc., and never even took her off the back of our truck. She was acting like an angel and was showing no signs of being sick other than the intestinal issues. He gave her some hay and water as we talked on into the early hours of the morning. We were there till 2 a.m. The goats are free-ranging right now, that's why I keep looking over there. They're just between the barn and the paddock right now. Back to the story, sorry. He ruled out everything. He examined all the reports and initial findings. He said that this was something in their environment, something we are not seeing, something universal to them all, and likely in the paddock. He felt like it was something toxic, but couldn't confirm that because there were some things that just didn't add up. There didn't appear to be a toxic plants or bad food in the stomach or in the pasture. We were approaching a dead end of just guessing that they got into something somewhere, somehow, and that was causing the diarrhea, but why that was killing them so quick was the weird part. He tested Rocky for anemia and dehydration. All good. I asked him again if he wanted to see the video of when Coco died, and he said no need, but the med student asked if she could for educational reasons. I handed her my phone and continued talking to the doctor until the student's face dropped as she watched the video, and she looked up at the doctor, and as soon as she caught his eyes, he stopped talking and immediately went to her side and watched the video with her. A look of sudden realization swept over him. I knew immediately this video revealed something new. Something we would not have known if I hadn't walked into the barn when I did. Something we would not have known if my mentor had not told me to film it. What is it? I pleaded as he began pointing out things in the video to the student, and she nodded with the excitement of learning something new as only a vet school student would. Classic toxicity neurological behavior presented in the seizures you filmed. We are definitely dealing with a toxin, and likely one that has built up in their system over time, like a fungus or mold. We had already discussed mold and fungus, but there were no signs of it in any of their feed, so we had ruled it out. But as we dug deeper into the conversation and fixated on other possible places they could find it, we focused in on the incredibly wet summer we have had here. It has made some very interesting mold and fungus growth everywhere. So whether it came from under their water trough or on the blades of grass affected by slime mold, it got in them all summer long. Something that almost never happens. It might not ever happen again, as droughts are common in Georgia during summer months. This is the first summer I have seen this much rain since I have moved here 15 years ago, and there was nothing I could have done to prevent it from raining or to keep them from eating a little here and there without us ever even knowing it was there. Finally, things are starting to make sense. Finally, we have a good idea of what has been happening all this time. We are 99.9% sure that it is a built-up toxin, and 90% sure it is from rain-induced mold or fungus. Unfortunately, there is no way to test this theory. There is no mold toxicity screening they can do on blood or tissue. There is no culture that they can grow rumen contents with. It is just the best, most educated guess. It is better than what we knew at the beginning of this crazy mess, so I'll take it for now. The good news out of all this horrible day is that we finally have some answers. We know our parasite control is better than almost anyone else's. Our herd manager has the official seal of approval from the state vet. He was pretty impressed with us. He thought we were really doing well with our herd. Made me proud. Rocky was sent home with us because we had done everything the vets would have and can continue her care at home where she won't be stressed and we won't be growing this vet bill even higher every day. It is not contagious. So we don't have to worry about the new kids we are waiting to be born getting sick. Or any others really, because they would have to eat more mold. Here. It does not affect our milk in any way, so we are definitely happy about that. And we never did suspect that the milk was affected, so we've been drinking it all along with no issues. And best of all, it hasn't rained in a little while now, and no new goats are sick. And 5 days later, and Rocky made a full recovery and rejoined the herd. I can finally breathe a little. We are nervous and watchful, but we can't control Mother Nature. I have now officially truly let it all out in writing this. I sobbed and cried for all that we have been through, but I finally let it all out. What has been bursting inside of me. I can finally share this information with all of you. I know people will have more questions that I didn't answer here, but please be gentle with what you ask. I am very sensitive still, and a bit defensive even, understandably. I hope this is my last depressing piece for a long, long time. Hopefully, I'll be bragging about new kids next. That's basically it. If you want to read that on Steam It, you can. I'll leave a link below if you want to read all of it. Not much different than what I just read. So that's it. If we have any more goats come sick, we are to give activated charcoal and penicillin. That's all we can do. The activated charcoal binds to the toxins, and the penicillin is just in case of secondary infections. I'm exhausted. I'm sick as a dog. The boys are still sick. I got whatever they got, but I got it worse, I think. I got bad fever and everything. But we're getting better. And the goats are happy. And we still have a very lovely, healthy herd. And I'm terrified of the rain now. There's nothing I can do. I really, I mean, I've walked every inch of this pasture, trust me. We have done everything preventative that we can. And we're moving the water trough every day to make sure that nothing will grow under the water trough, because that's a likely spot where mold will grow. Trying to keep things as dry as we can, changing the bedding frequent. Everything that we can do is what we're doing. So we're just gonna hope it doesn't rain. And if it does rain, I'm gonna be extremely cautious, and I'm gonna watch and look and really follow my gut. If I feel like it's too wet outside, they'll stay in. Even if I have to keep them in on a hot day, which I hate to do. Usually on rainy days it's not hot though. But now all my adult goats are coming in heat and acting ornery, so they didn't want to come up here into the paddock. I thought if I sat up here they would all come up here. Well, all the babies did. The babies all came. All the little yearling dolings and everything. They were all up here with me and Liam for a little while. But then when one of the adults made a noise down there, they all went running down there. So the adults just want to be close to the boys, but they're not in with the boys. I have that gate is closed. They're just in the little fenced off section between here and the paddock. But they're enjoying that. They're eating all the yucky poison ivy and stuff, so that's good. It needed it. So I figured I would finally let you guys know what's going on. Now, I still have emotional healing and emotional scars, but really, right now, this cold or flu or strep, whatever I have, is what I've really got to heal before I can properly do any good videos for you. So you might not see an update again for a couple of days, or you might. There's been a couple of projects I've been wanting to do, making stuff, so I might just do a little tutorial video here and there. And I might start vlogging again tomorrow, who knows. I do feel a lot better, and I told Ryan yesterday, just writing it all out really helped. And I also told him yesterday that I miss vlogging. I miss making videos. And I hope that I can get back to it soon. Hopefully I'll be feeling better. But now I gotta go chase down some goats. And that's hard to do when you got a fever and you don't feel good. My fever's broke right now because I took ibuprofen. But yeah, I'm gonna go try to get them up here so I can go in, get out of the heat, and just work on getting better. And I'm really, really sorry I had to tell you guys this horrible, horrible news. I think it was you guys I was most worried about telling, because I know how many of you love my goats and how attached you guys are to them. So I didn't want to tell you. But now that I have, I think it's gonna be better. I think the getting past it will be easier anyway, somehow, a little bit. But I love you guys, and thank you for everybody that's been messaging me and emailing me and showing love and support in so many ways. And I can't get over the outpouring of love that you guys have shown. But just know that we will get through this, physically, emotionally, financially. I don't even want to see the bills that we're gonna get for all of this. I'm just blocking that out of my head, but we'll figure a way through it. And these goats are gonna continue getting the best possible care, as you know. I've been told many times in this situation that we've been going through by numerous vets that we really are doing a great job managing our herds. So that really makes me feel good and helps me relieve the guilty feelings I've been having, because of course anytime you lose an animal you feel guilty about it, but I know logically it wasn't my fault and I did everything I could have. Can you imagine if it had been in a different herd, how many more would have been gone? I don't even want to think about that. So we did save quite a few of the ones that were sick, so that's a good thing. But we will carry on. We will be stronger after all this. We have more knowledge than we did before, and hopefully that this information will help some of you or anybody in the future that has a situation that seems similar. Start that activated charcoal right away. Don't even question that it could be toxic or not. Just do it. It doesn't hurt. So that's what we're gonna do. And we appreciate you guys so very much. Thank you for always supporting us. Thank you for liking, for sharing, for commenting. And we will see you next time on Wholesome Roots. You say bye, Liam? Liam, say bye. Bye.